everyone, welcome back to StarSound Speaks. This is your resident cowgirl, Irlianna Samsara of StarSound Astrology with the August astrology. So yay, it's here, hot and blazing. All right, in this video, I'm going to talk about 3 things that you need to know for this month of August. I'm also going to talk about the new and full moons, but 3 other things in particular. Before I get into all that, just want to say welcome all of you new cowgirls, cowboys, and intergalactic mare people. You are all so very welcome here, loved and appreciated. A couple of announcements. If you would like to be on my email list, we'd love to have you, because I'm going to be announcing some cool things and also some free things and giveaways pretty soon. So if you're not already on the list, Irlianna at starsoundastrology.com. Before we get into our chat, Holly Payberg, my beloved writing coach, is going to be joining us for a very special episode. She is the founder of an amazing system and writers community called Loving the Process. And she's going to be talking to us because this is going to be in service to Venus retrograde in Leo. So we're going to be talking about the creative process. I'm getting chills just saying it already. You will absolutely love Holly. She's amazing. Also, Dan Waits of World Astrology Report. I have not forgotten about posting it. I'm halfway through the editing. My computer was in the shop, so I had to wait. Anyway, yes, a fabulous conversation with Dan, and I think you'll really enjoy that. Like, share, subscribe if you find this content useful. Always so very grateful. Okay, so now we're starting the month with a full moon in Aquarius, 9 degrees of Aquarius. Of course, opposite is the sun in its domicile in Leo. What is coming to a head here and what we're going to be carrying with us as the moon wanes in preparation for the next cycle, for these next 2 weeks, we're going to use this energy. I'm thinking about art and inspiration in a big way. This particular new moon, a full moon in Aquarius, the ruler, of course, of Aquarius is Saturn. This full moon is happening under the playing by Venus's rules in the bound and decan of Venus. And Venus is now retrograde, we're discovering ourselves and our real self-worth and what it takes to shine and what and who we are faithful to and loyal to. So it's all of that energy is kind of melded in, and things coming to a peak about who we are versus the collective. The ruler of this, Saturn, is in an exact opposition with Mercury for this full moon. So there has been some tension and maybe some external maybe a little bit getting hung up on details, analysis paralysis, kind of trying to, it's that struggle, oppositions over the nature of Saturn anyway. Well, the big guy is in Pisces retrograde. So what this means is, Mercury is in domicile. So Mercury's got the upper hand from big old Saturn, because he's like, okay, dude, I'm in my home sign. So I get to say, I'm going to be the upper hand of this opposition. So at its best, that would be about nailing down details and being really, really focused on, I would recommend creating something great art, something of great and lasting importance, thinking about long-term patience, wisdom, the big picture. Get those details handled to tease out the artistic vision, the potentials for great art that are there. But Saturn in Pisces retrograde can be very much like, oh man, it's like a little bit all over the place. So the Mercury in Virgo can be a very good thing, because it's like, okay, let's get efficient, let's get organized, let's get this big art produced, right? Like there's this Sgt. Pepper epic kind of music or album or art that's waiting. And it's like, this is a good time to be integrating, the best of Mercury and the vision of Saturn. And so use it for that. That would be my recommendation. Also, the dark side of Mercury in Virgo is excessive criticism. We're being too hard on ourselves, on others, critical conversations with the opposition with Saturn. You don't want to be fighting with your boss or an authority figure. You don't want to get picky. And sometimes we get so picky on the details with Virgo that we lose the forest from the trees. And so we want to avoid that. So use your mind. Saturn is the wise, patient elder. So use your mind, be patient as this process occurs. Okay, number 1 thing I want to tell you about, 3 things. One is for this month. By the end of this month, there's going to be 6 planets retrograde. Huge, right? Talk about August vacation time. by the end of the month. So we'll have Mercury, Venus is already there, Saturn's already there, Uranus will be there, Neptune and Pluto, 6, right? That's a lot of retrograde. So the big movement that happened earlier this year is it's like this is a time where we're settling. We have a lot to think about, certainly with Pluto and Aquarius, if you've been following the podcasts, with all of what that means, building a new society, the role of AI and technology in our society. We are dealing with some huge epical subjects here. And so it's natural, part of the ebb and flow of nature is to have that ebb tide where we step back and we reflect. So there's a lot of planets. What it's really pointing to is thinking about these long-term changes and having that quiet, that reflective time, more of an internal process, integrating lessons of the past year. The second thing I want to talk to you about is Mercury is in the sign of Virgo. It's going to go retrograde. So Mercury, because of its retrograde, Mercury is going to be in its home sign of the yin earth intuitive energy of Virgo for 10 weeks. Virgo speaks to the practical, efficient, service-oriented person, health-oriented. There's going to be a lot of emphasis on health, specifically if you want to get into like medical astro. Virgo rules the colon. And so the large intestine, the colon. So with the sun there later this month, I would say this is a great time to attend to health matters and to really review and reflect our health and our priorities with that. I would also say that problem solving will come more from the intuitive mind, because it's a yin earth sign. It's very intuitive. It's on the inner process. And it really kind of speaks to like the wisdom that we receive when we're grounded, when we're in nature, when we're connected, when we're being humble, when we're thinking about service, when we're wanting to be efficient and culling and discerning, all, you know, when it was in Leo, it was like big and loud. And it's like the Virgo process is where we're going to take all that intense energy and just kind of cull what's useful, what's not. So the Virgo energy is very much speaks to that. On a practical note, I would say this is definitely, reminder, back up your files. When Mercury goes retrograde, no matter what, but especially in its home sign, dude, back up your files, get your external hard drive if you haven't, or a bigger one. I was ahead of the curve. I took my computer in last week. It took a little longer. I'm like, thank God it wasn't during Mercury retrograde. Don't do it during Mercury retrograde. Get it done beforehand. Clean that up. The health of your computer, big time. Thursday, August 3rd, adjust for your time zone. I'm talking Eastern time here. Excuse me. Mercury will start its shadow retrograde. And that's when it starts to slow down as it starts to go on its backward journey. You often find with Mercury retrograde, no matter what the sign, people from your past show up. Relationships that haven't been working typically come to an end, or at the very least, they get reworked and reconsidered. Don't worry about, say, job hunting and things, because if you're looking for a permanent position, Mercury retrograde is always a time that it's easy to pick up fast freelance work, quick, in and out. It's not permanent, so go for it. I would say not only do people from your past show up, but in the sign of Virgo, it could be a former coworker, it could be a crafts person or a handyman or a nurse or a farmer or some writers, it could be and journalists. These are areas that Virgo rules, healthcare worker. So or maybe it's time to toss out that handyman that hasn't been working out for you. I don't know. There's lots of conversations to be had about that, but it definitely gives us a time to ease. Mercury in its retrograde, you're easing the mind, and certainly in Virgo, the analytical mind. So maybe it'll show us, depending on what area of your chart Virgo occupies, is where you're going to have reflections and insights. Mercury will station retrograde on August 23rd at 21 degrees of Virgo, and it will go direct on September 15th at 8 degrees of Virgo. And by September 20th, it will have left its shadow at 21 Virgo. So it's this whole process. But the hardest part with a retrograde is always right before it turns, makes that U-turn. So it's like 4 days before you really feel it coming in, making that turn, stepping out. Once it's settling in, like in meditation, once you settle in, you're in the zone and you go. And then the The upstart again is at the end when it's getting ready to station direct. Is always this, it's like you're coming out of meditation, you're kind of lumbering, and you're not there yet, you're not quite fully, you haven't stood up yet, you're just kind of rousing yourself out of this deep meditation. So there's always that little rough edges of getting back to quote normal. But you take yourself, we receive insights, and then when we go back in the world, we're wiser, we have a greater understanding of things. Our reflective, our analytical mind is really taking a break. August 16th is our new moon in Leo, 23 degrees of Leo. And of course, the sun is in its domicile, its home sign of Leo. And the interesting feature for this new moon will be the fact that this Uranus is going to be in an exact square at 23 Taurus as we have our new moon. And that is the point at which it's going to retrograde a week later. So that is a very telling thing. The sun, of course, having the upper hand in the square because it is in domicile. Uranus doesn't like being in Taurus. The Uranus is kind of coming along, pushing the bull. Like, where are you stubborn in your life around your values, around your self-worth, around money, possessions, the things that matter? So the sun in that kind of tense square, we could be seeing some good things, breakthroughs with our creativity. When you think about Leo, the divine self, the divine overself, the beautiful, magnificent you. There is only one of you in the whole world. So this could bring us time for great enjoyment of life and celebration and beautiful, pure self-expression and creativity. And fun. Let's face it, Leo's is about fun. Hello. I can't do this podcast if I wasn't having fun. So this is a time when we break up old self-worth convos when that's square with Uranus. What is socially acceptable, what's not acceptable, finding out. Saturn is the bound ruler of so this new moon is playing by Saturn's rules. Well, Saturn's in retrograde in Pisces, so Saturn's busy dissolving the reality structure of reality as we know it, time and space, and what really, relativity, right? Time and space are all relative. So we're busy, it's busy dissolving the matrix, and so that is the rules of this new moon are going to be under, let's dissolve the matrix, let's dissolve old, worn out societal rules and conditions around how we must be in the world. And maybe, where have we been fearful to express our true selves? It can also bring great art, music from the 60s, from Jefferson Starship, Jefferson Airplane into Starship, very Piscean, right? Sgt. Pepper and the Beatles and Revolver, Go Ask Alice, all those incredible 60s, and then in the mid 90s, we had grunge as an antidote to the harshness of Saturn and Aquarius. We had Kurt Cobain and all of the great artists of the mid 90s. So yes, this is a great time to be engaging in designing how would we like to express ourselves and how we could use art to do that. August 28th, we have Uranus going to station retrograde at 23 Taurus. It'll go back over a 5-month period. It will go direct at 19 Taurus. So if you have planets within 20 degrees of Taurus to about 19 or so even 16 degrees of Taurus, of fixed signs, the fixed signs are really going to feel this the most, right? Because Taurus is a fixed sign. So what Uranus in a retrograde, Uranus is all about innovation, about stepping out of the box. So since it's been for the last 5 years in Taurus, it's having us reassess our values and realign with what's good for our Earth, our future, when we think about all the environmental disasters that we've been reading about in the news, and very much so at play. It is spurring us to come up with innovative solutions that will heal Mother Earth, and that our values will come from not the best things of life or more things, the best things of life or not things, right? There's something beyond that. If you're going to fall in love with a thing, have it be Mother Earth. The change is going to come at a slower rate when Uranus goes retrograde. Step back, right? Retrograde, Latin for step back. This is when we get to assess the progress that we've made, hopefully been making, something that has upset our world or thrown us a curveball, which is very much Uranus, the unexpected coming from out of nowhere. So this is a time when we step back and integrate the lessons that we've learned since the last retrograde, our efforts could be stymied or slowed down. So the change might come at a more intuitive internal scene when it's retrograde. Remember, a planet moves in the direction of the sun when in primary motion. With the sun when it's retrograde, it is not in secondary motion. So it's not associated with the heavy slog through the material world. It's in a more divine aspect. So it's giving us a time to contemplate and consider, what is it what's it gonna take to be free? What's it gonna take to release trauma, especially with relationships? It's in Venus's sign. Venus is retrograde during this as well. So there's a lot of rethinking along these lines with relationships, the things that matter to us very, very deeply, and healing past wounds. That'll be really a juicy time for that. The last thing I want to say of the big three is that as it retrogrades, it's going to be pretty close, but it's 8 degrees from Jupiter in Taurus. Jupiter itself will be going retrograde next month. So we'll talk about that in another podcast. But the fact that the preview, it's kind of giving us a little bit, I've mentioned this before, so I want to mention it again from previous podcasts. We're getting a little bit more, it's like this, like a head popping up out of the ground, it's like breaking through the ground. It's an image I saw. I'm thinking of what was that, the Road Runner in the cartoon, beep beep, and that guy, this thing would just jump out of nowhere and surprise us all. Well, the Jupiter is pretty close. It's in that conjunction. It's not going to happen until next April, but that's going to be really important, hugely. We're going to talk a lot about that. That's going to be one of the major conjunctions, the major transits of 2024 will be the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus. But we're getting kind of previews, little blips here and there. One thing that I think of is the congressional hearings with Chuck Schumer and what's his name, Dave Grush, the Pentagon whistleblower, talking about UFOs, and we have crashed vehicles and we have alien bodies, and this is Uranus, right? This is new, sudden, shocking territory that the government has. We've all talked about that for years. It's been out in the public consciousness, but the fact that we're going to this new ground, unexplored territory, with the government now talking openly in these sessions around what are we going to do about this, and why we need to tell everybody, and this needs to be disclosed to the public, and so we're already seeing these little flashes of insight, but we're going to see it. It's kind of like getting us prepared for next spring. So I think it's going to be very exciting to take that with us as we contemplate these changes. The last two things is just the Mars will finally leave Virgo and go into Libra on August 27th. So we're going to finish the month with Mars entering into Libra, which is in its exile. He likes being in Aries, the opposite sign. He's going to be there from August 27th till about October 11th, depending on your time zone, October 12th. And good news about that is a fight for equality, being passionate and courageous about matters of diplomacy and fairness and equality. And so I think about the Writers Guild of America and the SAG strike, and how how that is going on. So this effort, hopefully it won't last that long, but just know that there is this impassioned, it's in Virgo. It's like, give me the details. Let's get this. Let's hammer down an agreement, and let's take care of everybody, the workers, right? Virgo, those cameramen, and what they call below the line. They talk in it's a term in the industry. So crafts workers, electricians, especially those writers, all of those people getting taken care of. So fighting for equality is something that we would want to do too. We'll be called to be very passionate about those subjects. And then the last thing is the full moon. We end the month with a full moon. We start with a full moon, we end with a full moon, and that will be at 7 degrees of Pisces on the 30th. So yeah, that's interesting month, and that's basically the lowdown. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you get value out of this. Let me know what you're looking forward to for August. It's always great to hear from you. We'll see you soon. Okay, much love, and don't forget, like, share, subscribe, yay, and shoot me an email. Get on that email list. Okay, take care, everybody. Namaste. This is Irlianna Samsara, StarSound Speaks, StarSoundastrology.com. Thanks for listening.